If you had asked me a year ago what happiness looked like, I would have pointed straight at my family. My parents weren't just in love, they were soulmates. At least, that's what everyone believed. Everywhere we went, people noticed them. At school events, the other moms would whisper to each other about how lucky my mom was to have a husband like Dad. And the dads? They admired her, too. My mom was effortlessly beautiful, with a smile that could light up a room. My dad, well, he was the guy who coached Little League for kids that weren't even his, who donated to the local shelter without telling anyone, who kissed my mom's hand in public like we were living in some fairy tale movie. People used to say, "Your parents are what love should look like." And I believe that with my whole heart. Growing up, I never doubted them for a second. Sure, they argued sometimes, but what couple didn't? They always made up quickly, and they always made sure Ethan, my little brother, and I felt safe and loved. Our life wasn't flashy, but it was good. Simple. Honest? Or so I thought. That summer before senior year felt like everything was falling into place. I was 17, working part-time at a coffee shop, dreaming about colleges, counting down the days until freedom. My parents were so supportive, constantly reminding me how proud they were. Dad even joked that he'd build me a dorm room in the backyard if I didn't want to leave. I laughed because that was so like him, always teasing, always loving. We had traditions. Friday pizza nights. Saturday morning pancakes. Family movie marathons in the living room where Dad would inevitably fall asleep halfway through. Those moments felt unshakable. Eternal. But here's the thing about life. It doesn't send you warnings before it destroys you. It doesn't whisper, "Brace yourself. Everything you know is about to crumble." It was an ordinary Thursday night. Dad was out of town for work, something that happened often but never felt strange. Mom hated being alone, so whenever Dad was gone, we had our girls' nights. We ordered Chinese food, stayed up late watching old movies, and laughed until our cheeks hurt. That night was no different. We watched Sleepless in Seattle while eating lo mein straight from the carton. Mom even braided my hair while the credits rolled. It felt perfect. When the movie ended, she kissed my forehead and said, "I'm going to bed, sweetheart. Don't stay up too late." I promised I wouldn't. But I did. I sat in the living room with my laptop, browsing college websites, scrolling through social media, dreaming about the life waiting for me outside this tiny town. I had no idea that in a matter of minutes, my dreams and my entire reality would implode. I got thirsty and went to the kitchen for a glass of water. That's when I saw it, Mom's laptop sitting on the counter, screen glowing softly in the dark. She must have forgotten to close it. I swear, I wasn't snooping. I had no reason to. Why would I? She was my mom, the most trustworthy person in my life. But then I saw a small notification in the corner of the screen. Just a few words. Last night was everything I needed. My brain froze. For a second, I thought it was spam. Some scam email. But curiosity got the better of me. My hands moved before my brain caught up. I clicked, and my world ended. It wasn't spam. It was a love letter from someone named Daniel. He wrote about missing her, about how incredible last night had been, about how he couldn't stop thinking about her. He used words that made me feel sick to my stomach, words no one should write to someone else's wife. My heart was pounding so hard, I thought it might crack my ribs. I told myself it had to be a mistake. Maybe it was work-related. Maybe it wasn't what it looked like. I needed to be sure. I opened her inbox. And then I couldn't breathe. There weren't just one or two emails. There were dozens. No, hundreds. Going back months. Years. I scrolled through message after message that made my chest ache. Plans to meet in hotels. Late night phone calls. Jokes that only lovers would share. Pictures I wish I could erase from my memory forever. And then, the date. One email, buried deep in the chain, stopped me cold. 2 years ago. 2 years. That meant every birthday, every Christmas, Every family vacation for the past 2 years was a lie. A performance. A mask my mom wore while she betrayed everything we stood for. I slammed the laptop shut so hard it rattled the counter. My hands were shaking. My whole body was shaking. I wanted to scream, to wake her up and demand, "How could you do this to us? How could you do this to Dad?" But I didn't. I just stood there in the dark kitchen, tears streaming down my face, whispering the same words over and over. No, 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 this isn't real. But it was. And in that moment, I knew one thing for sure. Nothing in my life would ever be the same again. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my heart pounding so loudly I thought it might wake the whole house. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that email. Those words burned into my brain like a scar I'd never erase. Last night was everything I needed. I kept asking myself questions I didn't want the answers to. Why would she do this? Was Dad not enough? Were we not enough? Did she ever love him? Did she ever love us? Or was it all a lie from the start? And then came the thought that nearly suffocated me. What if Dad finds out? The man who adored her, who worshipped her, who spent his life loving her like she was his entire world. I couldn't even imagine what this would do to him. By the time the sun came up, I felt like a ghost. I dragged myself out of bed, splashed water on my face, and walked into the kitchen where Mom was humming while flipping pancakes, like nothing had happened. Like the world hadn't collapsed in my chest just hours ago. "Morning, sweetheart," she said with that warm smile that used to make me feel safe. Now it made me want to scream. I mumbled something about not being hungry and bolted before she could ask questions. Her face fell for a split second, just a flicker of concern, but then she shrugged it off. That almost made me angrier. How could she be so calm? How could she act like everything was fine when it wasn't? The next few days were torture. Every time she laughed at something, I wondered if she was texting him. Every time Dad called from work and she smiled, I wondered if she was lying through her teeth. Every hug, every kiss, every "I love you" between them felt fake, like watching a movie when you already know the ending, and it's not a happy one. And then, as if the universe wanted to twist the knife even deeper, Dad came home one night with flowers for her. I was sitting at the dining table doing homework when he walked in grinning like a fool. "Thought you could use these," he said, holding out a bouquet of her favorite lilies. Her eyes lit up. She kissed him on the cheek and said, "You didn't have to." But here's what broke me. She looked happy. Like really happy. Like a woman who loved her husband. And for a split second, I almost convinced myself I'd made it all up. That those emails were some sick joke, that my mom couldn't possibly be that person. But then, later that night, I passed by her room and saw her on her laptop, typing. Her reflection glowed in the dark window behind her. And I just knew. She wasn't emailing Dad. The secret started eating me alive. I couldn't tell anyone, not Dad, not Ethan, not even Lily, my best friend. If I told someone, it would make it real. And I wasn't ready for real. But I started changing. I pulled away from everyone. Stopped answering texts. Stopped laughing. I went through the motions at school like a zombie, pretending everything was fine while my whole world was crumbling. Lily noticed first. One day at lunch, she sat across from me, frowning. "Okay, what's going on?" "You've been acting weird. Like, really weird." I stared at her sandwich because I couldn't meet her eyes. The truth was clawing its way up my throat, but I swallowed it down. "Just stressed about college," I lied. She didn't buy it, but she let it go. For now. At home, things looked normal from the outside, but I saw every crack. The late night text Mom tried to hide. The way she smiled when her phone buzzed. And the worst part? Dad didn't notice a thing. He was so busy working, so busy loving her, that he didn't see his world teetering on the edge of collapse. One night, about a week after I found the email, I snapped. I waited until everyone was asleep, crept into the kitchen, and grabbed Mom's laptop again. My hands shook as I typed Daniel into the search bar. And that's when I found it. A draft. An unsent email from her to him. It said, Daniel, I can't keep living like this. I love you, but I'm scared. If Michael finds out, everything will explode. I don't know what to do. Part of me wants to run away with you, but I can't leave my kids. They're my life. Please give me time. My stomach dropped. She wasn't just cheating. She was planning to leave. Leave Dad. Leave me. Leave Ethan. Tears blurred my vision as I slammed the laptop shut for the last time. I pressed my fist against my mouth to keep from sobbing out loud. This wasn't just an affair. This was a ticking time bomb. And I had no idea how much longer before it blew up and destroyed us all. After reading that draft, I couldn't unsee it. Those words replayed in my mind on a loop. I love you, but I'm scared. If Michael finds out. Michael. My dad. The man who gave her everything. The man who trusted her with his whole heart. And she was ready to throw it all away for some guy named Daniel. The next morning, I stared at Mom across the breakfast table, studying every detail of her face, the soft smile, the way she brushed her hair behind her ear, the casual good morning, honey, like nothing was wrong. And all I could think was, how do you live with yourself? My throat burned with words I couldn't say. I wanted to scream, to demand answers, to make her admit what she did. But every time I opened my mouth, nothing came out. Because if I said it, if I told her I knew, then everything would change. There'd be no going back. So, I kept quiet. For a while. But secrets like that don't just sit quietly. They grow like weeds, choking everything good until there's nothing left. The first real crack came 2 weeks later. We were sitting in the living room, me, Dad, Mom, and Ethan, watching a movie. Dad had his arm around her. They looked happy, like the family we used to be. Then her phone buzzed. Just once. A tiny sound, but it set my nerves on fire. She glanced down, smiled faintly, and typed something back without even looking at Dad. Something inside me snapped. Who's texting you? The words came out sharper than I intended. She froze for half a second, just enough for me to notice, before answering too casually. Just work stuff. Work stuff. At 9 at night. On a Saturday. Right. Dad didn't notice a thing. He just laughed and said, don't let them rope you into more hours. But I noticed. I noticed everything. And for the first time, I didn't swallow it. Work stuff, huh? I said, my voice shaking with anger I couldn't hide anymore. Or Daniel? The room went silent. Ethan looked up from his phone, confused. Dad frowned. And Mom's face drained of color like someone had flipped a switch. What did you just say? Her voice was barely a whisper. You heard me, I spat. Daniel. Should I spell it out for Dad, or do you want to? Daniel? Dad looked from her to me, his eyebrows knitting together. What is she talking about? Mom shot me a warning look, a look that said please, not now, don't do this. But I was done protecting her. I found your emails, Mom, I said, my voice cracking. I know about the affair. I know everything. Dad's face went white. He turned to her, his voice trembling. Affair? Tell me that's not true. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Her hands shook in her lap. Tell me it's not true, Anna. Dad's voice thundered through the room, making Ethan jump. And then, she cried. Silent tears streaming down her face as she whispered, I'm sorry. That was it. 2 words. And just like that, our world shattered. Dad stood up so fast his chair tipped over. How long? His voice was a mix of rage and heartbreak, and it made my chest ache. Michael, please. How long, Anna? She sobbed harder. A year. Ethan gasped. I couldn't breathe. A year. An entire year of lies. An entire year of fake smiles and family dinners while she snuck around with someone else. Dad punched the wall so hard a picture fell and shattered on the floor. I gave you everything, he roared. Everything. And you throw it away for who? Who the hell is Daniel? Mom covered her face with her hands. It's not what you think. Not what I think. His voice cracked. You've been lying to me for a year, Anna. To me, to our kids, what the hell do you call that? I couldn't take it anymore. I bolted upstairs, my legs shaking so badly, I could barely make it to my room. I slammed the door and collapsed on the floor, sobbing into my hands as their screams echoed through the house. Ethan came in a few minutes later, pale and wide-eyed. What's happening? He whispered. Why did you say that? Did she really? I nodded, tears streaming down my face. I'm sorry, Ethan. I didn't want you to find out like this. He sat next to me, silent, his whole body trembling. Then he said something I'll never forget. Our family's over, isn't it? And the worst part? I couldn't lie. I couldn't tell him it would all be okay. Because I knew it wouldn't. Downstairs, I heard a door slam. Then another. Then silence. When I finally got the courage to peek out my window, I saw Dad's car tearing out of the driveway. And in that moment, I knew nothing would ever be the same again. That night changed everything. When I woke up the next morning, the house was quiet. Too quiet. No clinking dishes, no smell of coffee, no soft humming from Mom in the kitchen. Just silence, a heavy, suffocating silence that told me Dad hadn't come home. I walked downstairs and found Mom sitting at the table, staring at a cold cup of coffee. Her eyes were swollen, her hair a mess. She looked smaller somehow, like the truth had shrunk her down to nothing. Where's Dad? My voice was flat, lifeless. She didn't look up. At a hotel, she whispered. Ethan came in behind me, his voice sharp with anger. So that's it? He's just gone now? Because of you? Ethan. No. Don't Ethan me. He snapped. You ruined everything. Do you even care what this does to us? Her face crumpled. I care more than you'll ever know. Then why'd you do it? His voice broke. Why, Mom? Wasn't that enough? Weren't we enough? She didn't answer. She just cried. And that's when I realized something awful. There's nothing worse than seeing your parent, your hero, broken. Because it makes you wonder if love even exists, or if it's all just temporary happiness waiting to collapse. The next few days were a blur of slammed doors and whispered phone calls. Every time Mom's phone buzzed, I felt sick. Was it Daniel? Was he still in her life? Was she still choosing him over us? I hated her for that. Hated her for turning me into this paranoid, bitter person who couldn't even trust her own mother. Dad called me once. His voice was tired, shaky. Kiddo, how are you holding up? I wanted to tell him I was fine, that I was strong. But instead, I choked out. Come home. There was a pause. Then softly, I can't. Not right now. And just like that, my last shred of hope crumbled. A week later, he came by, not to move back in, but to pick up some things. He wouldn't even look at Mom. Wouldn't step past the front door. Your mother and I, we're going to separate for a while, he said, his voice tight. Just until we figure things out. Separate. That word hit harder than any punch. Because I knew what it really meant, divorce. Mom stood behind him, her arms crossed like armor. Michael, don't, he snapped without turning around. Just don't. He left with 2 suitcases and a face that looked 10 years older. And I stood there, frozen, feeling like someone had ripped out the heart of our home. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying every memory, Christmas mornings, birthday parties, family road trips, and wondering how it all led here. How did the people who loved each other so much become strangers overnight? And then, like a fool, I opened Mom's laptop again. I don't even know why. Maybe I wanted answers. Maybe I wanted to feel something other than anger. But what I found made me wish I'd never looked. There were new emails. Not from Daniel this time, but to him. From Mom. It's over. I can't keep doing this to my family. Please don't contact me again. For a second, I felt relief. Maybe she ended it. Maybe she was finally choosing us. But then I saw the date. The email was sent that morning. After everything blew up. After Dad left. After our lives were already in pieces. It didn't matter anymore. The damage was done. I slammed the laptop shut and sat there, shaking, tears streaming down my face. And for the first time since this all started, I didn't feel angry. I felt empty. Like someone had hollowed me out and left nothing but echoes of what used to be. The next few weeks were hell. Dad moved into an apartment across town. Mom tried to act normal, cooking dinner, asking about school, but it was fake. Everything was fake now. Ethan stopped talking to her completely. He barely talked to me. We were all just existing, like strangers trapped in the same house. One night, I overheard Mom on the phone. Her voice was low, shaking. "I just want my family back," she whispered. And for a second, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. But then I remembered Dad's face that night. Ethan's tears. My own shattered trust. And I realized something. Some things you can't take back. Some things break so completely, they'll never be whole again. I went to bed that night and wrote in my journal, "Love is fragile. Handle it like glass, or you'll end up bleeding." And God, were we bleeding? All of us. By the time the court papers came, I wasn't even surprised anymore. Mom and Dad sat us down in the living room like it was some kind of family meeting, like they weren't about to rip what was left of us apart. Ethan didn't even sit. He stood with his arms crossed, glaring at both of them. "We've decided," Dad started, his voice stiff, "that this is what's best for everyone. Best for everyone." Funny how adults love to say that when they're destroying your world. "We're getting a divorce," Mom said quietly, her hands twisting in her lap. The word hung in the air like smoke, choking me. Divorce. The thing that happens to other families. The thing I thought could never happen to us. I waited for the tears to come, but they didn't. I think I'd already cried them all out. Ethan didn't say a word. He just walked out, the door slamming so hard the walls shook. And me? I just sat there, staring at the rug, trying to memorize every detail, every thread, every color, because part of me knew this would be the last time we'd ever sit in this room as a family. The months that followed were strange, empty. Dad moved into a small apartment downtown. I visited on weekends, but it wasn't the same. No warm smell of Mom's cooking. No pictures on the walls. Just bare rooms and awkward silences. At Mom's house, things weren't better. She tried, God, she tried, to act normal. She made pancakes on Sundays, asked about my day, even suggested movie nights. But it all felt forced, like she was reading from some script called How to Be a Mom After You Shatter Your Kids' Lives. Ethan refused to play along. He barely spoke to her unless he had to, and when he did, it was cold, sharp, like every word was a weapon. And me? I floated somewhere in between anger and exhaustion, numb most days. School felt pointless. Friends felt distant. I even stopped answering Lily's texts because how do you explain to someone that your entire life collapsed because of a single email? Then came the holidays. God, the holidays were the worst. Thanksgiving was split, dinner at Mom's, dessert at Dad's. Christmas morning at one house, Christmas night at the other. Nothing felt magical anymore. It just felt broken. I used to believe in forever. In love that lasted. In families that stayed whole no matter what. But now I knew the truth. Forever is just a word. Love is just a feeling. And feelings fade. One night, months after the papers were signed, Mom came into my room. She sat on the edge of my bed like she used to when I was little. But I didn't look at her. I couldn't. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Her voice cracked. I never wanted to hurt you. I wanted to scream at her. To tell her she didn't just hurt me, she destroyed me. She destroyed us. But the words wouldn't come. Instead, I just asked, why? She stared at the floor for a long time before answering. I don't know. I was lonely. I was stupid. But I love you. That's never changed. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to. But how do you believe someone after they've burned your entire world to the ground? After she left, I opened my journal and wrote one sentence. Nothing lasts forever, not even the things you think will. It's been almost a year now. Mom and Dad share custody. Ethan's in college, barely comes home. The house feels quieter, smaller. The laughter we used to have, it's gone. And me? I'm different, harder, less trusting. But here's what I've learned. People aren't perfect. Love isn't perfect. And sometimes the people you trust most are the ones who hurt you the deepest. If you're listening to this and your family feels like it's falling apart, I want you to know something. It's not your fault. You didn't cause this. And you're not alone. Because I survived it. And so will you.